All right, guys, it is definitely time to talk about the southern border, and you will not believe what Karine Jean-Pierre said. Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you're returning, welcome back. I appreciate your continued support, and I hope that you are subscribed as well. So I know that the southern border is not something I have talked about on my channel before, but it is something that I pay a lot of attention to. It is something that I watch closely. It is something that I just am constantly keeping an eye on because, well, I live in Texas, so, you know, it's pretty close to home, but also just the sheer number of people that have come across our southern border in the last 2 years, the number of apprehensions, the number of contacts between Border Patrol and illegal immigrants, the number of gotaways, the amount of fentanyl that has come across the border. And I know that the left tries to dismiss this by saying, you know, this has always been an issue. This is an issue that numerous past administrations have had to deal with. This is an issue that Trump dealt with, essentially implying that the only reason that we care about it on the right is because it's Biden, and that we wouldn't care about it if our guy was in charge, which to have that belief system is just willful ignorance. It's completely insane. But we also know that everything the left says is 100% projection. You know, everything they accuse the right of doing is projection from them because it outlines the exact behaviors that they carry out on a daily basis. You know, and every time I see videos of these caravans that have thousands and thousands of people in them from all over the world coming through our southern border, you know, people showing up that are starving and they're tired and they have been through this horrific journey, and these children that are most of the time not even with their actual parents, and just everything that is happening. I think of these photos from AOC when she went to the southern border while Trump was the president, because they were perpetuating this lie that his policies were inhumane, that he didn't care about separating children from families, that he really just wanted to create as much misery for these people as possible, and that he wasn't treating them like human beings. And so AOC went down to the border to stand in front of, you know, what was a chain link fence, and she was, you know, had her head in her hands, and she was just, you know, looking like she was just going to fall over from all the tears and the emotion, and she just couldn't handle what she was seeing, just to perpetuate this lie, just to stage this moment and try to make Trump look as bad as possible. Because it turns out what she was actually staring at was an empty parking lot with nobody in it. And they all just kept saying how much they care so much more about the children than we do, that they care so much more about treating these people with dignity and respect and taking care of them than we do. But come to find out, it was all just a show. Like, literally everything that they said that they cared about when it comes to this immigration, and really everything in general, but when we're talking about immigration and illegal immigrants, was just a show. And this border has been out of control for 2 years now, and everything has been swept under the rug as much as possible. Kamala Harris was appointed border czar like 3 months into her vice presidency, and the closest she has come to actually visiting the border was to go to a town that was like 3 or 4 hours away from the border. And then Joe said a couple months ago that he was going to go visit the border to debunk the lies coming from the right about the border being under control. But let's not forget the lengths that he went through to make it look like the right were the ones that were being dishonest. They literally swept human beings off the streets like they were pieces of human trash. They didn't offer any solutions to the city that has had to take care of these people for the last 2 years because of Joe's policies. They didn't offer any help to the families and the children that are sleeping on the side of the road, because when you flood a community with thousands of extra people, resources run thin and everybody suffers. The only thing that mattered was to make sure that they could make the right, the political right, look bad. It wasn't about whether or not we can actually care for these people and make sure that they're fed and they're housed and they're warm and they're not sick. But the goal was to get these peasants off the street so that Joe Biden could look good and make the right look bad, which didn't work, at least not if you have a soul or a brain. So there have been several conflicting messages about what the border looks like right now, and these have just absolutely made my head explode. So let's start here. On April 26th, a woman named Tara Lee Rodas testified before Congress in the Biden Border Crisis Exploitation of Unaccompanied Alien Children hearing about the reality of what actually is going on at the border. And like I said, what she is saying directly contradicts and debunks everything coming out of the White House. Ms. Rodas signed up to help the Biden administration in 2021 with the border crisis as part of Operation Artemis. And she was assigned to the Pomona Fairplex Emergency Intake Site in California, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, to help children reunite with sponsors. And she thought she was signing up to help children go to loving homes. But that is not what she experienced at all.
I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in home country, smuggling to the U.S. border, and ends when ORR delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. Now, whether it's intentional or not, it could be argued that the United States government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation that is run by bad actors seeking to profit off of the lives of children. As for me, my interest is the safety of the children. I do not view this as a political issue. I view this as a humanitarian issue. I assure you, my motives are the highest and best. I want the children protected. So I want to tell you some of what I witnessed personally at the Pomona Fairplex. I saw vulnerable indigenous children from Guatemala who speak Mayan dialects and cannot speak Spanish. That means they cannot ask for help in English. They cannot ask for help in Spanish. They become captives of their sponsors. I have sat with case managers as they've cried to tell me the horror of what has happened to children as they make the journey to this country. I saw apartment buildings where 20, 30, and 40 unaccompanied minors have been released. I saw sponsors trying to simultaneously sponsor children from multiple ORR sites at one time. I saw sponsors using multiple addresses to obtain sponsorships of children. And I saw numerous cases of children in debt bondage, and the child knew they had to stay with the sponsor until the debt was paid. Realizing that we were not offering the children the American dream, but instead putting them in modern-day slavery with wicked overlords, was a terrible revelation. A terrible revelation. These children are a captive victim population with no access to law enforcement or knowledge of their rights. They are extorted, abused, neglected. And that is why I blew the whistle in 2021. I witnessed firsthand the horrors of child trafficking and exploitation. My life will never be the same after what I saw.
So if that wasn't hard enough to hear, there was a recent report of an 8-year-old migrant girl when she got to the border, and upon medical inspection, it was discovered that she had 67 different DNA samples inside of her. Now, that would be extreme. That would sound extreme if I hadn't already heard countless stories like the ones that Ms. Rodas just told us, and countless stories from Border Patrol agents testifying about the horrors that they still see children going through, not only on their journey through the South to get to the southern border, but once they get here and they are forced essentially into modern day slavery to pay off their debt to the people that trafficked them here. And like I said before, no one is saying that this was not a problem in prior administrations, but there is a stark difference when you have somebody in charge that is actually trying to solve the problem versus somebody who does not seem to care about the problem at all. When you have somebody that's, I don't know, trying to build a wall so that it forces people to go through the ports of entry and actually come face to face with security to make sure that these children are actually with people that are going to keep them safe. And I don't know, put sanctions and restrictions on these southern countries so that they can take responsibility for their own problematic citizens. Yes, there are still going to be people that experience these horrors, but you're also going to stifle the incentive for the cartels to just round children up like sheep and sell them like they're pieces of furniture. Versus when you have somebody in charge who stops the construction of the wall, who makes up stories about Border Patrol agents whipping immigrants, who tells border facilities that they're not even allowed to share photos of what's happening at their southern border. And then you have a moron like this who gets up and outright lies about what's going on.
That actually deals with what we're seeing at the border, and that's why you've seen the parolee program be so successful. It has when it comes to illegal migration, you've seen it come down by more than 90%, and that's because of the actions that this president has taken.
And you guys may have heard the story recently about the Mexican national named Francisco Oropeza, who executed 5 people in cold blood and then escaped, and it took police several days to find this person.
Into something Jefferson Rivera and Wilson Garcia never imagined. Watching their family members die at the hands of a gunman who lived just next door.
This tragedy that unfolded, he had no right. We never offended him. We never disrespected him.
Francisco Oropeza was allegedly drunk and shooting outside of his home near Cleveland, Texas. Garcia says he asked him to stop because a child inside was scared. The unthinkable happened next.
I told my wife to go inside because he had loaded the gun.
Oropeza forced himself inside their home, first turning his weapon on Garcia's wife, Sonia.
That's when my friend told me to run. Sonia is dead. You have 2 kids. Run. We will take care of ourselves. So that's when I went through the window.
Garcia returned a short time later, only to see Oropeza still safety. Now Rivera and Garcia are left to mourn the loss of their wives. Garcia also losing his 8-year-old child.
The 5 people died. Diana and Jolisa died covering their children. They died defending their children.
And Oropeza is still on the run, which is terrifying for those who survived this tragedy.
I'm scared because he can come back and look for us, but we're hoping that police do their job and arrest him.
Turns out this guy was deported like 3 or 4 times, and he just keeps coming back. So if our borders were really secure and closed like KJP has been repeating nonstop for the last 2 years, then it wouldn't be that easy for not just anyone, but a criminal to go and come back that many times. And just to throw it in there, the serial opportunist and despicable human being Beto O'Rourke used this story to talk about gun control, because clearly that's the problem here. And I'm sure many of you have heard that Title 42 is set to expire in about 10 days. And from what we know, there is no policy or enforcement that is in the works to replace it. It has been reported that Joe Biden is sending 1,500 troops to the southern border to help with the expected surge once Title 42 is lifted. But the question is, what is the purpose of these 1,500 troops? Because it is not to keep people from coming here. It's actually to help these people get through faster. With the path that we are on right now, the video footage that came out of El Paso, Texas, just yesterday is what we can expect for the future of our country as a whole. If you're somebody that wants to still argue that this is about racism and wanting to keep people out of America that don't have a light enough skin color, then you are willfully ignorant. And I don't know if there's a point in even repeating this, but just for the sake of making the point, we do want diversity in America. Nobody is trying to keep any culture from coming to this country who wants to come here and live their life and build the best life possible. We admit the most legal immigrants than any other country on earth. These people are being lured into modern day slavery with the idea of being able to achieve the American dream, only to find out that they are now sitting in the middle of their worst nightmare. And this administration is sitting in their comfy, air-conditioned White House meeting rooms where they do not have to look in the faces of these people and witness the incredible suffering that they are personally responsible for. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Please like this video, share it with others. Please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.